Today we are going to revisit 9/11 on the occasion of the 20th anniversary. Our guest today is Larry Parkinson, who is General Counsel of the Federal Bureau of Investigation on 9/11. Larry is a native South Dakotan who graduated from Pier Riggs High School, Northern State University, and Harvard Law School. In the spirit of full disclosure, I should tell you that Larry is my cousin. Well, 9/11, an extraordinary day. Starting it out and taking a look, where were you when you first heard that the planes had hit the towers? The first plane had hit the tower.
I was in my office. I had an office on the 7th floor around the corner from the director's office. And I had a TV. I don't recall if I had it on or somebody told me that a plane had hit the tower. So I turned the TV on, if it wasn't already on, and saw the news reporting initially of the first plane. And at that time, they were reporting for the first several minutes that it was a small plane. A small plane had hit one of the towers. So I was monitoring the news coverage for those first few minutes. Nobody was thinking that this was a terrorist act. But shortly after that, obviously, when the second plane hit, that changed everything. And I saw it in real time in my office. At that time, it became pretty clear that we were under attack and this was a terrorist act. So the first thing I did shortly after 9 o'clock that morning was to leave my office on the 7th floor. And this was in the FBI headquarters on Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington. We had a new command center that had just opened not too long before that, a couple of years. So I went to the command center. It was called SIOC, Strategic Information Operations Center, but essentially it was a command center. And there was a room in the command center. It was a pretty big center, but there was a room that was devoted to the director. The director had a small room with glass windows. It was inside the command center. And there was a table that had seats for 10 or 12 folks. So I went to that room, and I knew that things were bad, and I knew that that's where we would be assembling. I didn't have to be told that. I knew that's where we would be. So I went down there. The director was there, and maybe half a dozen other assistant directors. I had my general counsel position was analogous to an assistant director position. At that time, there was the director, the deputy, and then we had like 16 assistant directors. That was the hierarchy. It's a little bit more, there's more levels now, but that's what it was then. So I went down to the command center. The director was already there, as was the deputy director, and the head of counterterrorism, the head of counterintelligence, the head of criminal.
Obviously, the FBI has an office in New York City, and I assume that you probably relied on what little information they had at that particular period of time from a feet on the ground situation.
We did, although the FBI office in New York was pretty close to the towers, and they were having some difficulties with communications. Mm-hmm. But they were obviously at ground zero, so we had an open line to that office, and the information that came in remarkably quickly. There were within a half an hour. We thought we knew who was behind it. They had already found some stuff, both from airline records and on the scene, that were helping us put it together. We had a whiteboard in the office where the terrorism folks were sketching out who they thought was responsible and what we're going to do. And we had open lines to the FAA, Federal Aviation Administration, to see what was going on in the skies.
Well, it's obvious that the course of the day changed entirely for people in, in the federal government, especially in an agency like the FBI and other agencies that are involved in this sort of thing. What was the mood in the room?
Uh, incredibly somber. You can see I still get emotional about it 20 years later. It takes me back to those days. There was nothing like seeing those planes get hit, and particularly when the planes fell. Um, it was somber, as you can imagine, serious, and we were just trying to do everything we could possibly think of to get to the bottom of this in short order. And then shortly after, it wasn't that long after that the Pentagon got hit. So we had another event near us. One of the things that's that I get emotional about is we were on an open line to the FAA, and we're trying to. There was a plane in the air. This was after the Pentagon got hit, and we knew there was another plane in the air that was headed toward Washington, and they were tracking the plane. We were trying to figure out, does anybody have authority to shoot this plane down if it comes to Washington? We were having trouble getting an answer to that question. But they were calling it out. And at one point they said the plane is heading our way. It's 10 minutes out. And then I remember they said it was 7 minutes out. And then it was 5 minutes out. And we were, in the meantime, we had sent all of our employees home, except for the people that needed to be there, because we needed to be conscious of the safety of our own employees. And we also knew that the FBI headquarters is a target. It's probably certainly wouldn't have been as high on the list as the Capitol or the White House, but it certainly would have been a terrorist target. It would have been harder to hit given its location in downtown Washington than some of the others, but we were very conscious that we may be targeted ourselves. So we'd sent all the employees home. But we got the word from the FAA. We had an open line that the plane was 4 minutes out. And the director, I was sitting directly across the table from Director Mueller. He was at one end, I was at the other end. And he looked at me and said, "Say your prayers." It was a moment where I thought, wow, I understand instantaneously what duty is all about. When the director of the FBI is looking you in the face and saying, "Say your prayers." Now it turned out that information was sort of accurate, but this was the plane that went down in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. I don't think even at the speed that it was going, it could have reached DC in 4 minutes, but that's what we were hearing, and the FAA was counting it down for us. So that was a moment that I'll never forget.